Thank you very much. Thank you. Now, I'll be honest with you. I was a bit annoyed this last week. Would you like to know why? Yeah. OK, I'll tell you. There was a Jobs and Skills Summit in Canberra on Thursday and Friday, and I was not invited. Not even as a +1. And I know they had room because Peter Dutton turned down his invitation. Sure, they were going to have him sitting at the wobbly card table over in the corner with some butcher's paper and some crayons, but Anthony Pratt was going to be sitting over there as well, and it would have been fun. But no. And I had a great idea too about how to increase Australia's productivity. Would you like to hear it? Yeah! OK, I'll tell you. Move all our public holidays to Sundays. Because, people would work a full week, and that's why I was so disappointed when, at the end of the Jobs Summit, the PM announced...
We have no plans to change Australia Day.
Now, that's a missed opportunity there, because I think that's a very popular public holiday. Everybody takes a day off. It costs this country a fortune in paint remover alone. Anyway, it's not just me. There are lots of problems with who was invited and who wasn't. I don't often agree with what Andrew Bolt says.
Penises.
But this week, I think he spoke for all of us about the blatant bias of its guest list.
Also included are 6 Labor premiers and chief ministers, but only 2 Liberals.
I mean, how are we supposed to take this consensus idea seriously if Labor can't even bring themselves to invite more Liberal premiers than the 2 that exist? Now, you might say, how can Andrew expect Labor to conjure something out of nothing? Well, Labor are trying to fix the $1 trillion government debt without any change to the Liberal Party's promised tax cuts, so why not? It's not just Andrew Bolt and me complaining, no. No lesser authority, and it is hard to think of one, the Nationals leader, David Littleproud, reckoned the whole thing was a stunt, but added...
I'll go swinging with Peter Dutton.
Yeah. Sure, they're coalition partners, no judgment. Another couple of experts on, if not the living embodiments of the deplorable shortage of job skills in this country, Angus Taylor and Micallefs, even before the summit had started, had produced a list of demands for its outcome, including creating more higher-paying jobs, creating a clear plan on migration, incentivising pensioners to remain in the workforce, and guaranteeing increased productivity. And that's a lot to ask from a stunt. But Labor do seem to be the Cirque du Soleil of politics at the moment, whereas the LNP are out there making balloon animals outside the railway station. As for their demands, you might say, oh, sure, the Libs are happy to set out what outcomes they want from the summit, but they're not willing to actually attend it and argue for them. Isn't that a bit like a barrister emailing a judge saying, I won't be attending court to defend my client, but I demand that he be found not guilty of murder? Well, can I say that is very cynical of you, and in defence, if not actual praise of the Liberal Party, I would like to offer a little bit of plain speaking. OK, now last week we celebrated Labor's first 100 days in office, but let us not forget that this week the Liberal Party celebrates its first 107 days in opposition. Now, sure, that's not a lot of time in which to achieve much, but despite that, they have so far not only refused to attend a Jobs and Skills Summit, but refused to support a legislated emissions target. They've run an unsuccessful scare campaign about foot and mouth disease, been revealed to have trashed the conventions of the Westminster system, and become the subject of a royal commission. In my view, they've taken to opposition like a duck to an oven. And the man leading the vestigial tail on the rump of this once great party, the party of Menzies and Harold Holt, current opposition leader Peter Dutton, he has gladdened the hearts of all Australians this week when he declared the next election would not be a beauty contest. No, if it was a beauty contest, I suspect we'd have the biggest swing in the country's history to the informal vote. Chef de mission to the Deputy Opposition Leader Susan Leela, Linda Sassoon. Mr Dutton has also said the party needs more people from different backgrounds and greater diversity in the Liberal Party ranks. By greater diversity, does he mean you need people who are actually likeable?
Peter was referring to women, Shaun.
All right, you don't think you appeal strongly enough to women?
Well, Shaun, I think that's obvious to everyone. Whatever personal appeal and charisma we may have as individuals does not seem to be translating to us as a whole. I'm in Lismore talking to women at the moment.
No, you're not. No, you're here in the studio. You're talking to me.
And they're telling me they are so disappointed that Labor are not dealing with the cost of living.
All right, so how do you, as a party, attract women?
Well, traditionally, we have tied a piece of cheese to a string and hidden behind some bushes. Then when they bed down to grab it, we drop a cage on them.
Well, that might have worked in Tony Abbott's day, but what about now in a modern progressive society in the wake of Me Too, calls for wage parity and the realisation, according to CEO of Grattan Institute, Danielle Wood, that women are a great untapped resource like iron ore?
Same method, different bait.
Well, how so?
Well, Shaun, it's like landing a fish. You need a lure. Perhaps the promise of advancement or the prospect of being listened to on policy. Then once they've signed up, we revert to type and just arrange them in the back benches behind whichever one of the guys are up talking at the dispatch box. That way, we look like we've embraced diversity without ever having to actually touch it.
Now, the other claim Mr Dutton has made is that as the government makes the wrong calls on the economy, former Liberal voters will have every reason to come back to the Liberal Party.
Yeah, so it's the Stephen Bradbury strategy. Cruise along and wait for your opponents to fuck up.
Does that strategy actually work?
Well, it did with the Liberal Party leadership.
Although, in Bradbury's case, it was 4 skaters who fell over, wasn't it?
Well, in Scott Morrison's case, it was 5 ministers who fell over.
Well, thank you very much, Lily.
I am so disappointed.
All right, so am I. Of course, it's not just the Liberal Party that needs women. If Danielle Wood is right and women are like iron ore, we need to dig them out of the ground and start smelting them to fix Australia's labour shortage. As to how we shovel more women into the furnace, here without a wig and glasses and even Tosh Greenslade himself is unpaid work experience student Jennifer Stoles.
Thanks, Mr Micallefs. One sector with chronic understaffing issues is childcare, a sector where 97% of childcare educators are female. Therefore, we're going to need to get more women into childcare positions to plug those gaps. But that then leaves more children who require childcare, meaning we need more women childcarers whose own children will then also add to the number of children needing childcare until the overworked and stressed out childcarers run screaming from the childcare centres into the overcrowded emergency department of an underfunded hospital with no free psychiatric beds. Alternatively, a government-subsidised kidnapping scheme is introduced, thus freeing up the women to enter the workforce without adding to the nation's childcare burden and creating a pool of underage cheap labour to solve the country's labour shortages. Mr Micallefs.
Jennifer Stoles there, work experience student from Sydney Girls Grammar and appearing tonight as part of the Governor-General endorsed $18 million leadership program granted by Scott Morrison under a closed, non-competitive process for which there is no merits review. That's nice. Well, thank you very much, Jennifer.
Does this go towards my media studies credit?
Absolutely not. She's not real. Well, still to come, a zero-carbon utopia powered by batteries charged by renewables. Could we get there if we bury the batteries deep underground and let coal miners dig them up and pretend they found them? Plus, in our handy hints section, Stephen shows you how you can save money by making your own soy milk at home, using only regular milk and soy sauce.
So, adding plenty of soy sauce in there. Give it a little stir. Cheers.
So, some good news there for those who can't handle the lactose intolerant. But right now, finance.
I want money.
Well, with the government's focus now shifting from ideas to how in Christ's name do we pay for them, the Stage 3 tax cuts have again reared their ugly children. Reg Caruncle, who is not meant to represent Treasurer Jim Chavez because that would be cruel, a quarter of $1 trillion in tax cuts. Isn't it an absurd luxury we can't afford?
Well, this was the coalition government's idea, Shaun, and not ours.
All right, so why can't you can them and free up that money?
Because at the time we made a commitment to support them.
Yeah, but you initially opposed them. You only changed your mind to get the stages 1 and 2 through.
And we remain committed to that changing of mind, Shaun.
Wouldn't it be consistent with your inconsistency to simply change back again?
No, we still support stage 3 cuts as reluctantly now as we did then.
Yeah, but didn't Jim Chalmers leave the door open to dropping the stage 3 cuts by saying at the time, and I quote, "We'll take into account all of the fiscal conditions, all of the economic conditions, and we'll come up with a right and responsible policy for the future"?
Well, Shaun, if you're going to quote him in context, then...
The right responsible policy for the future, he said.
Yes, and we found it'd be responsible policy for Labor's future to not break our election promise.
Oh, I see. I see. So it's better to stand by a stupid commitment that will cost $243 billion that are desperately needed in every other area of government spending than break the insane commitment and see the Labor Party politically embarrassed.
Shaun, we're trying to rebuild what the coalition left of Australia's belief in government. We want them to have faith and confidence and trust in their elected representatives.
Yeah, well, we're never going to.
We don't want Australians to think all politicians and governments are like that.
We do. You are. We expect you to break promises, so just do it and spend the money on the good ideas you say you haven't got the money to spend on.
Well, I must say, that's very cynical, Shaun.
Oh, does that offend you, does it?
No, I'm congratulating you. Welcome aboard. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you very much.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, well, that's enough of that.
Whatever.
Anyway, once we somehow pay off our $1 trillion government debt with money we don't have, while somehow increasing wages so we can buy things that cost more anyway because of inflation, we've got the account for these babies looming on the horizon. Meanwhile, Australian naval officers are already heading to Britain to train on their nuclear submarines in preparation for when our subs eventually get here under the AUKUS Pact sometime in the 2040s. The 2040s? Whoever we've trained up over there will have retired by then. We should be sending 8-year-olds over to learn how to run the things. What about China? They're not going to stand by drumming their fingers on their missile launch consoles, waiting for us to get our shit together. Last week, the Solomon Islands suspended entry into its waters for foreign Navy ships. And this does make for a tricky diplomatic dance with China, doesn't it? Character who is not meant to be Penny Wong, Dee Brockwurst.
No, it does, Shaun, and Australia is taking the lead in what might be described as a gavotte with our most important trading partner. Though, with so many others in the region also on the dance floor, it's rapidly turning into a flash mob. The key is we all know what we're doing and no one starts busting their own moves.
Which I suppose is why our Defence Minister, Richard Marles, has had to be very firm and clear this week, choosing his words very carefully.
Has Australia been issued with a moratorium as well?
Has the Defence Minister since sought clarification?
Richard's already comprehensively answered this question, Shaun.
But have you sought to get clarification?
Because it is important to know exactly where we stand, isn't it?
You got that right, Shaun.
You'd want to know the rules of engagement, right?
Well... All right, so just so there's no confusion...
Does it concern you, though?
You do have to be careful with what you say, Shaun. And, look, I don't want to speak for Richard.
Well, surely somebody should.
But I will say that he felt much freer to speak openly about the proposed security pact with Papua New Guinea.
What do you want in that pact?
Well, Wonderful. Well, that's good. That's comforting to know. Dee, DFAT have been quite busy this last week, haven't they, with dealing with the proposed gas pipeline from the Timor Sea to Darwin, particularly given Timor-Leste President Jose Ramos Horta threatening to turn to China unless the gas is piped to his country as well.
Sure, Penny's got that all sorted. She's called for Australia and Timor-Leste to have quiet negotiations over the project.
Yeah. Won't that make it harder to hear what's going on when we bug their meetings?
I don't want to say too much, Shaun, but microphone technology has improved remarkably since we last did it in 2004. As Penny said, as she said after the meeting with Jose, I spoke to him about Australia wanting to ensure we are a reliable partner, a partner who listens.
Ah.
Oh, yeah.
Thank you, Dee Dee. And to take us to the break, you'll enjoy this, Dee Dee, a little bit of Depeche Mode for you.
Excuse me, Shaun. I haven't been on this show for the last 3 seasons.
Oh, yes, the man down the front
As one
there.
of the quiet Australians, I demand to be heard.
Yes, all right. What is your question?
Never mind that. How come New South Wales gets to ban single-use plastic? Now I have to throw all my ceramic crockery into the ocean every time I have a picnic on the beach with my pet weasel.
So is that a euphemism?
And what about the train drivers of New South Wales walking off the job? If they'd stayed on it, they could have got off the job much quicker by taking the train. The sooner we get sentient locomotives with human faces like they have on the island of Sodor, the better. I wrote to the corpse of Reverend Audrey, but he said, oh, it's got nothing to do with me.
Millimetre to the left. Yeah, man, crazy. Now paint the whole place bright orange.
But I got a split, baby. I want to catch some pipelines down at Bell's.
What's more important here, man? Riffing a curl on a tube out in the big wet, or making sure those bastards in the opposition benches fry in hell publicly for the rest of their lives for corruption stretching back only 9 years?
I have to say, when I heard a woman had been put in charge of something, I thought, typical things you'd assume of the period, but...
Hey, Enid, you've done all right.
Bowers, you may be a sexist, condescending, misogynistic old dinosaur from the older generation, but you're all right too.
Maybe we can get a drink when this is over. I noticed a hose attached to a tap on the side of the building when I pulled up. When I pulled up my trousers, that is.
I'd like that.
Hey, boss lady, check this out.
Near as I can tell, this is a microphone. I saw quite a lot of them while I was working police liaison on the Underbelly series. Vince Colosimo shot me in the stomach.
But what's it doing secreted in the wall of our new ICAC building?
Hang on a minute. Isn't this new joint built on the side of the secret Bernard Collaery trial that old man Dreyfus closed down?
Well, yes, we kept the roof and the ceiling and the walls to save money.
You fool! You stupid fool!
Well, we thought that the money saved, we'd better waste it on independent panels to look into things that the current government already had a mandate for anyway.
You know what this means, don't you?
The new ICAC hearing building is haunted, like in Poltergeist. And now we've got to close down all the beaches, and I'm not going through that hell again, like in Jaws.
It doesn't make any sense.
Nothing in these sketches has made any sense since Roz left. I mean, why am I even holding this sign? I play a completely different character when we do Curiosity Cul-de-sac.
You think?
Someone's secret bugged the old secret Collaery case into the secret bugging operation of the East Timor government.
To think I almost drank from a hose with you. I must have been out of my depth.
The question is, do we mount an inquiry into who did it in secret and then tell everybody that's what we're doing? Or do we hold a public hearing into what went on behind closed doors?
Father Brown, what are you doing here?
I don't know. I don't know what the fuck's going on anymore.
Right, what should we do next? I could do a song or maybe some beat poetry.
Get on with it.
Well, congratulations to Coles, who have posted a profit this last financial year of over $1 billion. The only thing harder than making that much money in the current economic climate is perhaps announcing it to all the customers you screwed over in that period. Gemma Peaty from Coles Bragging Unit. Oh, hang on, you're not the usual Coles spokesperson we have on.
No, I was just doing my groceries and the person at the self-serve checkout said Coles is rolling out a program where they get the customers to answer press inquiries about earning updates. Okay. I'm afraid I'm not very good at it and it takes longer, but apparently the savings from not having to pay their own spokespeople will be passed on to me as the consumer, so...
Well, on that, apparently, despite making the sort of money that would make the rest of us put our feet up, Coles will continue to focus on delivering trusted value to customers.
Well, if that's their focus, they're clearly pretty shit at it, aren't they?
Well, how do you mean?
Well, that $1 billion of profit represents value they clearly failed to deliver to customers. They just fucking kept it for themselves.
Unexpected answer in the questioning area. Unexpected answer in the questioning area. Unexpected answer in the questioning area. Unexpected answer in...
Shaun, whether it's systemic underpaying of workers or thuggish strong-arming of suppliers, Coles works hard sourcing the freshest, leanest cost cuts. However, in these unprecedented times, and despite our best efforts, factors outside our control, like higher dividends or not wanting to, might impede our ability to deliver those savings to customers, even as our revenue grows off strong tobacco and liquor sales from people trying to deal with the stress of all the other prices going up as much as we can get away with in an uncompetitive duopoly.
Thank you. Well, thank you very much. And still to come, koalas being logged out of their habitats. Will they be able to log back in again after installing updates? The problems with buy now, pay later schemes are stacking up like piles of money that people don't have. And as debt levels grow like hair on the back of rising interest rates, things aren't going to get any easier. But a brand new player is set to disrupt the credit market. Wendell Vestibule, tell us about your new scheme.
It's called Now Pay, Shaun. And yes, it's essentially a buy now, pay now scheme.
Intriguing. How does that work?
OK, so you want a product that I sell, right? So, well, you give me the money now and I give you the product now.
Right. So both aspects of the transaction occur simultaneously.
That's what Now Pay is all about, Shaun.
What if I don't have the money?
Then I don't sell you the product.
All right. And what if I expect to have it later?
Then you would buy it later when you have the money.
Yeah, good luck getting the millennials to go for that.
That's very cynical of you, Shaun.
Oh, I can make jokes about them. They're not watching. You know, if this was on TikTok and we both had cat filters on our faces and we cut out all the stuff that didn't work, well, then sure.
Well, I take it back. You're not being cynical about them at all.
Well, thank you very much, Chica Lydia. Well, the public health system is on life support, or would be if it wasn't lying in a tent in a car park waiting for a bed to become available. A little later on, we cover the doctors who have finally had enough, taking to the streets with signs detailing their demands. Well, if you're in the aviation industry, are you looking for someone to manage marketing and promotions?
All airlines are giving bad service at the moment.
If not, you are now. Now, a month ago, a new milestone was about to be set for the Australian tourism industry.
Qantas and Virgin are on track to record one of their worst on-time performances.
Unfortunately, reaching that record was delayed several hours and eventually cancelled. Tamara Happenstance from Tourism Australia, who are in partnership with Qantas. Cynics out there might think recent problems could have been avoided if Qantas had used the $856 million they received in JobKeeper during the pandemic to help keep jobs rather than sack 2/3 of its workforce.
That's because they don't understand how business works, Shaun. Were it not for all that money and lack of staff, Qantas planes would be sitting idle in their hangars instead of idle on the runways.
But now couldn't be a better time to get out and see Australia instead of just the inside of its airports.
That's right, Shaun. Those accusations of price gouging and scrapping bonuses if Qantas employees don't accept a 2-year wage freeze might still be here, but your money's still good with us. So bloody get online, because our counter staff are busy dealing with complaints. Book a ticket, you bastards.
A ticket which does still risk getting cancelled and then rebooked at a higher price if flight staff are down with COVID.
We're all hurting, Shaun. Think of the poor old travel agents who are now only getting 1/5 of what they used to in commissions.
Yes, but that's because, as I think that news graphic made clear, Qantas is slashing them.
Shaun, what's the price of a few tickets for a few cancelled flights here and there when it comes to flying over this great brown land of ours? So grab your $50 apology voucher, buy yourself a beer and play Russian roulette with the departures board.
And it's it's not just about the quality of service at Qantas, is it, Tamara?
That's right, Shaun, and it's not about the quantity either. Monkeypox?
No, I'm good. Thank you very much.
Let's face it, we have to cut something when times are tough, and it can't be our shareholders' expectations of a healthy dividend. Do you know that in the last 18 months, Qantas lost $23 billion?
Pieces of luggage?
Very probably.
Well, thank you very much, Tamara. And well, right now to take us to the break, a bit of Blue Monday for you.
Hey, Waleed, mate! Waleed!
Yes. Yes, question from the lady in the front row there.
Yeah, mate, you know how the National Farmers Federation have put forward that proposal that, like, farm workers can, like, get part paid in, like, fruit and vegetables and other produce and everything like that?
Yes, yes, I know that, yes.
Yeah, well, what if, like me, they don't eat fruit and vegetables? Like, what, am I going to be paid in 2-minute noodles?
Yes, yes, well, they haven't made that clear, have they?
Nah, because, like, mate, if I'm going to be fruit picking, mate, like, and they pay me in kind, like, how many fucking nectarines do I have to hand over to buy a packet of smokes?
Well, it's a very good point.
Yeah, I mean, like, I'd be okay with it if I was working on a fucking opium poppy farm,
It's classic Saturday evening light entertainment this weekend when a bored English village police officer experiments with hardcore psychedelic drugs and has a never-ending psychotic episode which leaves him a violent mute. That's Sergeant Dolby Does Acid, Saturday 7:40ish.
Welcome back. The ABC, should it be defunded? Or should we just wait until it spends all of its money on so-called programming? Christy Whelan-Brown has more.
The frenzied back-patting of the ABC's 90th year has left its mark on Auntie's osteoporotic hump. As she staggers toward the future, what can be done to extend the life of the Australian public broadcaster? Or would it be better to put her on an ice floe, set her on fire and push her out to sea, as was suggested by the IPA?
Well, there's a view circulating on social media, being perpetuated by some sections of the so-called mainstream media, that the ABC is some woke, lefty, hive mind circle jerk. I mean, I think that, and I work here.
The ABC's original charter was to provide programming for the viewing public not being provided by commercial networks, no. So judging by the current ABC output, there was a gap in the market for poorly written drama, sitcoms where nothing happens, news reports with drone shots in them, and docos about things no one's interested in, padded out with slow-mo sequences. They are ugly, no.
But it's with smart-ass, self-referential so-called satire programs that come award nights, Auntie regularly covers herself in urine.
Listen, I was young. I didn't know what I was doing when I applied for HECS. Thought I'd be dead by 30 and never have to worry about it.
It's a bit white, isn't it, this show?
Yes, and I think we should all feel guilty about that.
Yes, I think if we, as white people, can laugh at ourselves, then that absolves us of the responsibility of actually doing anything about it.
Speaking of...
Well, you see, this is just typical of the typical ABC. Some undergraduate humour about HECS, followed by a softball, postmodern, ironic critique of their own lefty wokeness, then a sneering and, may I say, not especially accurate caricature of me, picking them up on all of the points I just mentioned. Settle on a point of view and stop relying on catchphrases. Typical ABC.
But it would be a mistake to think that just because Labor is back in power, that the ABC will revert to its previous levels of decadence it enjoyed when Gough Whitlam showered it with money back in the 70s.
As most ABC viewers know, because we wouldn't shut up about it, our funding was frozen for several years, and while that sounds good, because you'd think, great, it'll last longer, it was actually bad, because without a CPI rise, that amounted to a budget cut of $84 million, which is fatal to even our expendable news division when it comes to our talent travelling everywhere by limousine and having lunch at Rockpool. Getting Neil Perry to personally devein your prawns is expensive. And when I say talent, I'm obviously not referring to Andrew Probyn.
We cross live now to Francis Greenslade in the Mad as Hell control room, who says he has something that could save the ABC enough to make 40 more episodes a year of Gardening Australia, or a new pencil sharpener for Virginia Trioli. Francis.
Thanks, Christy. I'm just near still...
Am I wrapped? Can I go and get this fucking bald cap off?
I don't know. Shaun?
Well, not coming up because Summer Love is on in a minute. Truck driver interprets street food literally. Labour shortages impact on Prime Minister's security detail. And coastal popes under threat from rising holy sea levels. And finally, amid all this sturm and drang from the Job Summit, it was easy to miss this contribution from Andrew Forrest, who suggested Australia could be the Saudi Arabia of green energy. Now, I don't know about you, but I, for one, can't wait to live in a country filled with electric cars that women aren't allowed to drive.
Giant baby.
Oh, yeah. Fucking hell. Yeah, I like this one. You spin me right round, baby, right round. Like a record, baby, right round, right round. Oh,
you can make it work. Oh, we got no ending.
No.